announced it will be building a regional quarantine hub at Wellcamp after striking a deal with John Wagner and the Wagner family. Live to Georgia Simpson in Queensland. Georgia, this is on top of the already announced federal government facility that's to be built.
Good afternoon, Ash. That's right. And the Prime Minister found out about this announcement at the same time as everybody else when the Premier spoke at a press conference earlier today. Construction for the Wellcamp quarantine facility has already started, apparently, and this has come after many talks with John Wagner and the Wagner family who own Wellcamp Airport. The Premier did say that the deal was commercial in confidence, but she assured everybody that it was going to be far cheaper than the Pinken Bar facility. It is going to be closely modelled on the Howard Springs facility in the Northern Territory, which has been very successful. There'll be 500 beds ready by the end of this year and a further 500 beds ready by the first quarter of next year. The Premier took a swipe at the Prime Minister today. She said that this could have been built months ago, which could have prevented outbreaks right around the country. And she's also said that if this had been built months ago, it could have prevented the pause on hotel quarantine in Queensland. The Prime Minister did hit back. He said that if the Premier was so desperate to build this months ago, then she could have. He also said the reason why the federal government wasn't on board with the Wellcamp facility was because it didn't actually meet the criteria set out by the federal government. It wasn't close to an international airport and it wasn't close to adequate healthcare facilities. Take a listen.
Well, she's been at liberty to do that for months. We've made it very clear that that facility did not meet the national guidelines, and that's why we're going together, forward together at Pinken Bar. But the Queensland government was always in a position to go ahead with that facility if that's what they wish to do, and to have people quarantine there rather than in hotel facilities. That is entirely a matter for the Queensland government.
So this means that there will be 2 quarantine facilities in Queensland, and it has raised the question about quarantine for tourists and Australians. Even after international borders reopen, will people still have to quarantine when they enter Australia, regardless of whether or not they're vaccinated? The Premier did sort of skirt around these questions. She wouldn't say for sure whether that was the plan intended for the future. She did say that the Delta outbreak had turned the world on its head and that you could still pass the virus on even if you were double vaxxed. She did say, though, that the 14 days of quarantine seemed to stay for now.
Hopefully, over months and years, we might get to a better position on the international evidence, but at the moment, the 14 days will stay.
The Premier also said that the community had been crying out for these regional quarantine hubs. She said it's something that Queenslanders desperately wanted and that they really should be being built right around the country. She also said that this quarantine hub, the Wellcamp quarantine facility, would be the best one in Australia. Take a listen.
Queenslanders want this centre utilised. I have listened to Queenslanders. I know how much they support a regional quarantine facility to be in Queensland. They want their community kept safe.
I spoke to the Toowoomba Mayor, Paul Antonio, earlier today, and he said that this announcement completely blindsided him. He had no idea that this kind of facility was going to be built in his community, and that the community in this part of Queensland perhaps wasn't on board with the quarantine facility being in regional Queensland, as the Premier has made out. He said that there were a lot of fears still to be dispersed in the community and a lot of questions that needed to be answered. Ash.